Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to session 2 of the Digital Privacy Party. Thank you so much for coming back, or coming for the first time if this is your first time here. I'm Thea, your friendly neighborhood digital privacy nerd. Anyways, if you're the type who likes to know what you're getting into, here is the plan for today. First, I'm going to do a little visual description and land acknowledgement. Then we'll jump right in with some actionable steps you can take now while we're on the call. We can talk about why and how they work while we do them. We'll look at VPNs and password protectors. We'll talk about open source software and transparency. And then we'll talk a little bit about switching from privacy into security and steps to take for those moments when you might actually want to go off the map a little bit. So, my name is Thea. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a light-skinned, tan-ish woman with brown hair and brown eyes, and I'm wearing a green sweatshirt. I would love to know who's watching, so if you're comfortable, pop your username and any questions you have, or your favorite privacy tool, or a play about digital privacy in the chat. I have yet to see a play about digital privacy, but if you know of this, please let me know. I hope you use the chat today. You are my guest here, and I want to know what you're thinking. So questions, comments, concerns, share them. It feels especially relevant to start today with Adrian Wong's digital land acknowledgement, which I will read. Since our activities are shared digitally to the internet, let's also take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We are using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many Indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to much of the art we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples worldwide. I invite you to join me in acknowledging all this, as well as our shared responsibility to make good of this time, and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. Again, that's Adrian Wong of Spiderweb Show. Technologies, structures, and ways of thinking. I want you to know that I cut a rant about Google and AI right now. The short version is on the climate front. Google dumped their climate commitments in order to invest in AI. That's how bad AI is carbon footprint-wise, and it gives us an idea of what Google's priorities are these days. Real quick, if you get antsy, if you need something to do with your hands, pick up your phone, delete some apps. Whatever apps you're not using right now, oh, I have it just in case, delete it. But I might need it, delete it. You can re-download it at any time, but it doesn't need access to your phone in the meantime. It has access to your phone in the meantime, 24/7. If you do that real fast and you get it over with, go check your permissions manager. See what has permission to your location. See what has permission to access your microphone. See what has permission to access your photos. You know, that kind of thing. Maybe revoke some of those permissions. Maybe Zoom doesn't need access to your location on your phone. Okay, and actually I wanted to start by sharing some good news. And I'm getting this from Tuta's website as of yesterday. Tuta is a privacy-focused email and calendar client. Google's search engine market share just fell below 90% for the first time in 10 years. This is part of a trend since last October, so it looks like part of a larger shift happening in how we're all using the internet. And as they point out, 1% doesn't seem like a lot, but about 5.5 billion people use the internet. So a 1% shift means that in the last 6 months, probably about 50 million people stopped using Google search. Tuta's obviously celebrating because Google was found to de-rank them in search results, burying them and other privacy-focused services, because Google hates not only the environment, but also privacy and has no qualms about shaping what you see on the internet. In other good news, the EU also fined Meta, so it's Facebook, Instagram, the Zuckerberg stuff, and Apple also, a collective 700 million euros in 2 antitrust cases. In the case of Meta, around the difficulty in opting out of them selling your data for advertising. So not a huge fine, but it's something. And the EU has much stronger regulations, digital regulations, than the United States. The EU's Digital Markets Act, or DMA, are their tech antitrust regulations. Both companies are throwing little baby fits and will appeal the fine, but regulation is still prioritized in the EU, which is neat. So we are here to talk about, again, the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day, in the words of Adrienne Wong. I said this last time, but it's worth repeating. The internet doesn't have to suck. The biggest platforms we use were built intentionally to suck. They were designed to suck, specifically to suck your data away, to be used for nefarious purposes, like predicting and shaping your buying choices. But it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to let them shape how we think about these technologies. We don't have to follow their structures. We don't have to buy their cool sneakers. And we don't have to buy the ideologies they're selling us. And that's why we're here. Welcome to the party. I'm not going to talk about myself again. You can watch the old video or buy me dinner if you want to hear all that. But I do want to repeat that I am not an internet security expert. Treat me as your dramaturg, not your primary source. This is not meant to be the final word in internet privacy or security. It's hopefully just an easy intro to give you some basic protection. We're talking about slightly bigger things today, so no need to pull any triggers right away if you're not sure which path you want to take, or if there's, but if there's something you can do, just do it, just start the free trial, use the free version, or block out time in your calendar for later today, for lunch tomorrow, for next week, but soon, to finish this task. This video, as with most things on HowlRound, will be rewatchable on this page after the event. It's a manual process, so it won't be immediate, but if you need to come back and watch something later, you can. Oh my gosh, thank you, IHOP in the chat. Google search, it has intentionally been made worse in the past few years to generate more ad revenue. It was literally taken over by the head of Google Ads and a source link. I love that. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. That is what this is all about. So let's jump in. VPNs. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. We talked about this a little bit last week. They route your internet traffic through servers around the world to change your ISP. That's your internet service protocol. That is a piece of your identity. So they're hiding that one piece of your identity to make it look like you're connecting from somewhere else. They do not make you anonymous. Your browser can still be fingerprinted, but it does hide that one piece of you. Last week, we talked about Proton VPN, Windscribe, and private internet access as free options. But let's get into it a bit. I think free is better than nothing. There are arguments that free services don't have the support needed to truly protect your privacy. There are arguments against that. I'm going to offer some better rated paid tier options in case that is something that you want to invest in. But the main thing to look for in whatever you're looking at is, does this VPN have a no log policy? And is it open source to verify and provide accountability for that? We'll talk about open source later. The no log policy is very important. This means the VPN isn't recording, logging your information every time you use it to connect. If it's keeping that information, then no matter how well protected you are while you're connected, there's still a chance that the company could be hacked or could hand over your full record of connections to the police if asked. So this is that privacy mentality thing, right? You don't have to be looking over your shoulder all the time. Just take a moment to think about how far you can trust the tool you're using. There's no one-stop shop for privacy, unfortunately. We talked about this with Signal, right? Where no matter how well encrypted Signal is, Signal, the messaging chat service that hopefully you're all using now, it can't encrypt you against someone who wants to screenshot your texts. It can't encrypt you against someone who wants to add a journalist to the group chat. VPNs are a wonderful tool and very easy to use for a specific purpose with specific strengths and weaknesses. They are a part of the privacy onion. They do not make you completely anonymous automatically. Okay, so here are the options. All of these options are open source. They're externally audited. Notably, two of them, iVPN and Mullvad, don't require any personal information like an email address to sign up. Mullvad even offers an option to mail in cash to their offices for payment, so you know they are hardcore. And there are some people who would recommend, absolutely looking for those options that prioritize privacy in that way, because that means they're serious. And I am going to put these links in the chat. Here are the three options that we'll talk about. I'm working also on a cheat sheet. So if you are watching this later and there isn't a chat, I'm going to put a cheat sheet in the announcement page for each of these sessions coming soon. Okay, option number one, Mullvad. They are a pretty well-respected privacy company with a pretty well-respected VPN. Their VPN pricing-wise, $6 a month for up to 5 devices. So that means you can connect from up to 5 different devices. And there are some I want to say Apple TV, there are some other devices, gaming devices that will allow you to install a VPN on them in addition to your computer and your phone, which are the main ones we're looking at. Mullvad has servers in 49 countries, so that's 49 different places you can be connecting from. If you want to watch Netflix from a specific place in the world, for example. And that's something like the number of servers you're looking at. More servers can be useful if you're looking to connect from a lot of different places. Fewer servers can be useful in that they're sending more traffic through each of those nodes. So there's a little bit more anonymity, right? Because more people are using that one thing. It's harder to point you out. But that's sort of getting into the weeds here. Number two is IVPN. Pricing wise, $6 a month for 2 devices or $10 a month for 7 devices. They have discounts for longer commitments. And they have locations in 32 or servers in 32 countries. So connection points in 32 countries. Proton VPN, they have a free tier. This is the one I recommended last week as having a free option, but also a paid option if you want the sort of institutional support of a company. They're $10 a month for 10 devices. They have discounts for longer commitments. They have servers in 117 countries. So I know money is a thing. If you work for an organization, if you run an organization, ask them to invest in this for their companies. A lot of these places have enterprise pricing. If you go to your boss and they laugh at you because you want them to buy one more thing, form a union. If you want to connect to specific locations around the world, you might want to make sure the VPN in question has that location on their list. If you want to download large files, or if speed is important, maybe for gaming, check reviews and recommendations on these platforms that I've offered for lag rates. On the user side, since it's routing your traffic through servers around the world, it does actually, we think about the internet as fairly immediate, but it does actually take time for the information to travel to and from that server. So depending on the service, it might not be a major delay. Most of these are pretty fast, but you might notice your speeds lag a little bit when your VPN is connected in Japan. One other thing on the user side, if you haven't used a VPN before, for the most part, this is something you can set and forget. Install it, turn it on, let it run in the background. But you may find some websites don't like VPNs, banks, maybe healthcare sites. Yelp hates my VPN, weirdly. There are times where you'll try to connect to a website and it won't load. It might be the VPN. I think these websites are protecting themselves from suspected attacks because they might be able to detect that you're using a VPN and think that you're trying to do something nefarious. But they're sacrificing your privacy in the process of trying to protect themselves. It doesn't have to be that way. Just because you're doing something private doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Yelp doesn't need to know where you are in order for you to search stuff on it. So when that happens, you just have to decide whether to turn off your VPN and visit that website without the VPN's protection, or whether you can find reviews for the best coffee shop in West Hollywood somewhere else. And again, this just depends on what your goals are. My goal is to help you increase friction and reduce the amount of your data that's being collected by all of these, major internet corporations. So that's maybe no big deal. You turn it off for a moment, look at the thing you need, you're good. But if you're worried about tracking for more immediate, higher stakes reasons, if you're worrying about being stalked by some person or entity, for example, maybe don't turn off your VPN. If you're not on a safe home network, probably don't turn off your VPN. If you're in a coffee shop, if you're in a library connecting to their Wi-Fi. This gets into the privacy versus security question we'll talk about a little bit later. Privacy is not about urgency. It's not about perfectionism. We're just looking at making it harder for people to collect your data or passively peek in on you en masse. Security has higher stakes, right? But there is an overlap in a lot of these tools. Okay. I have one more thing to talk about before we get into password managers. I want to talk about open source software. It's a phrase I'm going to be using a bit. Excited to get a little nerdy here. From thelinuxcode.com. Open source software, or OSS, refers to computer programs with source code that anyone can inspect, modify, and enhance. It is developed collaboratively and shared publicly under licenses that regulate usage and redistribution. So already we love developed collaboratively. We love shared publicly. We love licenses that regulate usage and redistribution. Open source software source code availability differs from proprietary source code software or closed source code software, where the code remains hidden from users. Unlike freeware, which is also free of cost, open source provides legal rights to study, change, and distribute code as needed. You're like, okay, cool. I don't know how to code. I don't have time to be messing around under the hood of my VPN. Why does open source code matter to me? I'm so glad you asked. Our individual right to privacy has been taken away from us, but par for the course, corporations have maintained their right to privacy pretty aggressively. So the closed source, usually for-profit, usually corporate products that a lot of us use every day, right? Like programs made by Apple and Google and Microsoft. They maintain a lot of trade secrets in how their stuff is built. They are regulating it internally and reporting to the government that they're doing a great job. But if they're allowed to keep their source code secret, that means there's little to no external transparency or oversight. And they bring this up for VPNs and password managers because it leaves the door open, as it were, for private companies to claim that their security is tighter than it is, for them to miss bugs or weaknesses while they're building it, or to claim that they're not harvesting data when they are, or to claim none of these things and simply do it without telling anyone, right? Open source software is transparent, which allows broadly for more accountability. Anyone can go look at the code, and nerds online do this, and regulatory bodies do this to make sure it's legit. And a lot of open source software, I love this stuff. A lot of open source software is referred to as free and open source software. This is like a subset. This is the freeware mentioned earlier, both because it's financially free and because of the technical freedom it imparts on its users. The freedom for someone to learn from or use that structure to create something new or branch something off. That is another like kind of freedom that is available to you with this stuff. That does not mean, I want to like disclaim, that does not mean that they're reaching into your computer and changing the source code on the program on your computer. It means that they can download their own version, they can build their own thing and offer it to you. It doesn't automatically affect like what's on your computer. So in terms of the world we want to live in, or at least the world I want to live in, free and open source software is a much more accountable and commons-based approach, as it were. Plus, if you're looking for the free version of something, there's generally going to be an open source free version of something. Though, if you're willing to pay for a service, if you have the money to pay for a service, if you were going to pay for a service, donate some money to the org or creator of the free version you're using. They probably need it. There's a stereotype that open source software is less polished or that it is harder to use. This can be true, but it isn't always true. As an example, Final Draft screenwriting software is not open source, and you have to pay for it, and it crashes all the time, and it loses your work constantly. On the other hand, LibreOffice is the open source alternative for Microsoft Office. So there's LibreOffice Writer for Word, LibreOffice Calc for Excel, and it's very clean and works very well. And you don't have to pay for Microsoft Office. I am putting that link in the chat also. I just realized that I skipped over sharing what some of these VPNs look like. In the interest of just making this easier for you, if you're like, I've never used this before, what am I getting into? This is what it's going to look like on your computer. I'm not sharing my VPN. These are product shots. I just want to offer so you can sort of like get an idea of what you're looking at. But you can see this is Proton. They have some options, some like features that you can toggle on and off. They have a map so you can see where you're connecting to. This next one is going to be Mulvad. Um, if I, do this correctly, here we go. They also have phone apps. You can download the apps for each of these on your phone. Again, you can switch the features on and off, but really you're going to see this first window when you open it and you're going to say, connect. You can choose where to connect to, or you can let it choose for you. And this next one I'm going to share with you is IVPN. Actually, I think IVPN is the first one I showed you. My bad. This one is Proton. Here we go. So yes, you can see in the map of the world where it's connecting, the options to connect from, all of that. So if you're like me and seeing something helps you understand what it is, if you're a visual learner, there you go. So gave you my speech about open source. Fun fact, we are streaming this now on an open source platform called PeerTube. So you're watching this video on an open source platform. Our main streaming software that we recommend to people, if you ever want to live stream an event, open broadcasting software, or OBS, is free and open source. Anyone can download and use it. The internet is full of cool free stuff that you don't even have to steal. Okay. Let's move on to password managers. Thing number 2, the main thing is don't use LastPass. I know they were first on the scene, but they've had all sorts of privacy violations over the years. They're literally supposed to be a privacy company. I also wouldn't use the password managers built into your browser. DuckDuckGo will offer to save your password and credit card. Chrome, Google will offer to save your password and credit card. Don't use Google. Don't use either of them to save your passwords. There are better options. Again, I will offer brands as a cheat sheet. I encourage you, especially if you're spending money, to double check my work. If you're like, I'm never going to do that, fine, pick one, better than nothing. But again, I am not the final word here. So if you're feeling urgency, if you're feeling perfectionism, if you're feeling stressy, don't go try to change all your passwords at once. You don't have to do that. When you install a new password manager, change your most important passwords, change your email, change your bank account. And then as you go about your life, change the password the next time you log into that website, or delete your account entirely. Or if you already have a password manager and haven't changed your passwords recently and love to multitask, go do that right now to keep your hands busy while we're on this call. Use this time. Password managers. Password managers manage your passwords. Pretty straightforward. It's a one-stop shop to save all of your different passwords for all of the different sites you're logging into. Because you use a different password for every site you log into, right? Right? Okay, let's talk about passwords. Okay, longer is better, random is better. Do not repeat passwords. I'm going to move quickly through this. Do not use your dog's name. Do not use your phone number. Use a password manager to generate a long random password, and then let that password manager save the password so you don't have to remember a string of 20 random passwords. I'm going to share an image of one of the ones I'm going to suggest. Bitwarden has a passphrase generator, and you can choose, do I want a passphrase? Do I want a password? You can customize sort of like what kind of stuff you want to use. Generate something random. But okay, let's say you need to remember a password for something, your computer login, for example, or the password on your password manager, because you will need to log into your password manager. That is password protected. My favorite tip is to take 3 random words and string them together. Random, like really random, like really, really random, pick a card random. Some password managers, yeah, like I showed you, will have this option, let you customize what you're doing. What I noticed is my password generator will give you several like really uncommon passwords. So one that I generated for this purpose was slobbery satiating ulsterette, slobbery underscore satiating underscore ulsterette. I had to look up ulsterette. It means a small ulster. And I had to look up ulster. It's like an Irish raincoat. So if I need to remember slobbery, satiating ulsterette, I might picture like a drooling, hungry, animated raincoat, like a raincoat with fangs that's dripping slobber, drool, whatever, but it's just finished eating. It's full, it's satiate, or it's satiating. It's in the process of eating. Does it sound complicated? Because it is. It is complicated, but AI and quantum computing advancements are also complicated, and they're also working really hard to break your passwords. So keep them complicated. And look, if there's one that really needs to not get lost, it's not against the rules to write it down. Don't keep it on a post-it note on your computer. Write it somewhere discreet, really discreet. Hide it somewhere only you know where it is, not somewhere you know where you'll forget. It's possible. It's possible to keep these things private. Another fun feature in a password manager is going to be email masking. And I'm going to show you an example of what this can look like also. See, it just generated like a random, very strange email address. This is my favorite feature on my password manager. It gives me a fake email address that I can then go give to websites. So I'm not handing out my actual personal email address. So data harvesters can't identify me as easily because I've signed up for all of these mailing lists under different email addresses, right? It's not just gathering like, oh, this one person signed up for everything. There's like an extra layer of friction there. It redirects emails from those websites that I've signed up for, spam, advertisements, mailers, whatever, and forwards them to my email address. So remember, if you're going to have to respond to one of those email addresses, this isn't a real email address. So the response would come from your real email address. But if you're just receiving, like you've subscribed to a Substack, or you wanted a discount code for something, an email alias is a great way to create a little obstruction in your digital identity. The paid password managers, like some of the free ones will let you generate like up to 10. The paid ones will usually let you just like keep creating new email addresses to use for these sites and then save them so you don't have to remember them. Also, even without a password manager, you have the option to create a fully separate email address for that kind of like signing up for random stuff. You can use a privacy-focused email client like Proton or Tuta. We'll talk about email clients in the next week, long-term plans. You can use that to sign up for things that you don't want connected back to your main account. You could also generate email aliases using your password manager and then have them forwarded to that other separate email address within your password manager. Creating a new email address is free. For truly temporary items, there are websites that will allow you to create an email address that only works for 10 minutes. Also, like if that's really that, you know, you want that 10% discount or whatever, just for signing up. You don't need to log in. It only works for 10 minutes. You get that confirmation, confirmation codes, that kind of thing. Who's gonna know? Nobody's gonna know. You're creating friction. So I want you to know that that's an option. Those links, minuteinbox.com and 10-minute mail, those are in the chat for you to check out. So for the password managers, the top recs I'm going to give you, once again, are open source and have free options. I mentioned earlier that like not everything open source is totally free. Some private companies create open source software. That just means that their source code is available to be looked at and checked out. So that's something that we're always, again, looking for. So option number one, we're back to Proton. Proton kind of does it all. Proton Pass has a free tier. They have a paid tier with more features. Proton of these two has a more user-friendly interface. So if that's really what you're looking for, that's what it is. I'll show you. This is like if you want to sign into something, you'll see their little logo show up in the login fields. You can click on that. Sometimes it pops up automatically, and you can select the login that you want to use. I showed you already, I think, the Proton email alias creation. And here's just like an overall view of what it's going to look like. And again, these are product shots that I pulled from the internet because I didn't want to show you my password manager for reasons that might be obvious. The second option that I'm putting out there is Bitwarden. This one is, you can see it's a little bit more streamlined. It's a little bit more stripped down. This is the passphrase generator portion of it, but it has those same features as Proton. Both of these products allow a digital wallet, so you can have it autofill your credit card if that's something you want, if that's something you're used to. They have Firefox extensions, so you can install the plugin in Firefox and it'll do that autofill your information. If you were using LastPass or something before this, you can import all of your passwords from your old managers, so you don't have to fill them out manually. I believe Proton has the edge in dark web monitoring for data breaches, for checking the internet to see what data has been leaked. But both of these options will let you know if your passwords are too weak or if they're being reused. That's another amazing feature here. If you've been using the same password for a long time, hopefully you haven't, but I've done it. It's happened. It's super useful to be given a list of sites that you can go change. Again, don't freak out. You don't have to do it all right now. Set up the password manager, change your main passwords, and then change your other passwords over time as you log into that website. But do it. Build this habit. Which brings us to something a little more long-term. We'll talk about this more next week. I don't want to be an ad, but something to consider in the interest of low friction life adjustments, right? Like some things should be less low friction and some things shouldn't be as hard as they are. So if you're able and willing to spend a little bit of money, like the price of a Spotify membership, Proton charges about $12 a month for their whole suite of products. So they have a password manager and a VPN, and I think the full range of features and bonuses on their email client, calendar, cloud storage, and docs. They have an easy way to automatically import everything over from your Google account. They have a discount to sign up to Google. They are not the only option. There are advantages and disadvantages to splitting up your information across different hosts, right? Maybe you don't want to give one company everything. We talked a little bit last time about siloing your information, right? But if you're looking for an easy way to switch to something encrypted, if Google products are like baked into your life and you want to keep your life operating, this does feel like a strong option. They're a Swiss company. The EU has better privacy laws than the US, so that's great. They're open source. We love that. We'll talk more about changing your email and de-Googling next week. But because we talked about VPNs and password managers, and those are like bigger investments in some ways, either financially or just in the time of like setting up a password manager, before you buy anything, I want to mention that. And I'm like, oh, it takes like 5 minutes to set up a password manager. It doesn't take that long. You just have to like do it, right? Not to be an ad, but I wrote my scripts for this in the free version of Proton Docs. This is week 2. We're stepping it up. We're still drinking water. We're still taking deep breaths. And we're still remembering that we are here to choose a better world. We're here to create friction, to make it harder for those internet corporations to get at us. We're not about urgency. We're not about perfection. It'll sneak up on you. It sneaks up on me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, in writing this, I got really like, am I doing enough to help people, to protect people, to give them the tools? Should I be walking through each of the products? We're cooked in this way of thinking, the efficiency, the optimization, the life maxing. We're finding the best VPN or the best kitchen knives or the best sweatpants, whatever it is. This isn't that. This is a gym for your autonomy and privacy muscles. Make little choices. Make little choices that say fuck you to the people who want your data treats. And as I said last week, if breathing in and checking in with your body and checking in with your relationship to technology feels right, do that. And if you're petty and saying, fuck you, bitch ass data harvesters, you don't get my data treats, that's valid too. Sometimes we need that pettiness to get us through the day. Okay. Speaking of data harvesters, we're moving through it today. the big trackers, Meta and Google. We'll look directly at those settings and walk through them. And just to add your little password changing habit, if you have time, when you log into a new site, check your security settings on that site. Find out what you've agreed to. Do this in apps. Check your security settings in apps on your phone. If you don't have time to when you're logging into a new site, if you're going about your day, if you're at work, live your life, but maybe flag that site. And next time you go to like scroll on Instagram or your app of choice, or you're sitting in front of the TV and you want to have big screen, little screen time, maybe take a sec to go back and check your settings on that site or on that app. What you want to look for when you go through your settings are location access, ad personalization, and AI tools. It's a Book of Mormon rule. Turn it off. All right, let's start with Meta. Meta is following you around the internet, every move you make, every step you take. Posting a cut and paste, I do not consent paragraph on your wall or feed or whatever we're calling it, that doesn't do anything. It doesn't, it just doesn't. It doesn't do anything. They don't care. So this is for Facebook and Instagram. Meta is Facebook and Instagram. It's the Zuckerbergs. If your accounts are connected to each other, you only have to do this once. If they're not, log into both and go to your account center. I'm going to give you a direct link to the setting we're looking at today. And this is off Facebook activity. I don't know, like I've been seeing a lot more like Instagram stuff about this lately. I don't know if all y'all are seeing that or not, if you're getting that kind of information. But here, let me share my screen. This is your activity off Facebook technologies. And this means that they are collecting information from non-Facebook websites that you visit. That websites that you visit that aren't Facebook are sending information back to them about you. Turn it all off. Start with manage future activity because that'll like reset a lot of stuff. Turn that off. Turn off manage future activity. That means that they will stop being allowed to collect this information from other websites. Clear previous activity, delete any history they have, disconnect specific activity. If that's still on after manage future activity, disconnect anything in there. Just turn it all off. This does not mean that Facebook is no longer collecting anything on you. They are still collecting your information anytime you log into Facebook itself. To be totally honest, I don't know what this means for like Facebook ads that you see on other websites. Since those are still Facebook, I don't know if those are still collecting data. And turn these things off wherever you can. Opt out, opt out, opt out. You know, like there's still ways for them. They're still scanning your browser to get a fingerprint of it. They're still looking for your location, either because it is shared with their app on your phone, you can turn that off, or because they're trying to get it from your IP address, you can hide that with a VPN. It is worth it to turn it off. It is not the end of the road. And there's also a part of me that, like, as we said with like open source, closed source stuff, with these closed source companies, with these very private companies, there's a level of trust. There's a level of trusting that you say no and they're like, okay. Do you know what I mean? So just number one, all of these tools, they're tools, the technologies are tools. That's great. I want you to have these tools. But the number one tool I can give you is like notice what trust you're giving to people, places, and things, to these tools. Because they will tell you that they're not selling your data. They might not be selling your data. They are selling their tools and ad space that use all of the data that they've collected. They're not selling ground beef, right? They're selling Big Macs. And they will talk around it as much as possible. Well, you know, and while we're here, if you're using Firefox, go ahead and use Fluffbuster Purity. This is a plugin for Firefox. You click on it, you click install in Firefox, it'll walk you through it. It'll be great. It's so easy. This will get rid of all of those annoying ads in your Facebook feed. It'll get rid of all of the suggested posts in your Facebook feed. So you can scroll through your Facebook feed and only see the annoying content from the annoying people you already follow. And this, if you're going back in, you can go back into your Facebook settings and find like, don't give me personalized ads. I think that's a useful setting to turn on. It does not mean that they are not collecting information to personalize ads for you. It just means that you're not seeing them. I am of the opinion that obstructing the types of ads you see is good for your brain and also bad for their marketing algorithms. So I'm in favor of doing that where you can. Next, let's look at your Google account. I need to pull up the page for this. If you have a Google account, a lot of us have a Google account. Even if you stopped using Google search, you may still be using Gmail, calendars, YouTube, all of these other things. So you're going to go to your Google account. I am I've gone into mine. So go to your account settings. It should bring up your home, and then you want to go over to data and privacy over here. Data and privacy, if you scroll down, it'll have privacy suggestions for you. Go to your history settings. Choose whether to save the things you do. And this, when I looked through this for the first time, it was really interesting to see everything it knew about me. And this isn't even everything it knows about you. This is some of what it knows about you. This is what it's willing to share. So I would say, web and app activity, turn it off. It'll automatically uncheck all of these things. Delete your old activity. It'll ask you when you want to delete it. Delete all of it, delete it every 3 months, and then turn it off completely. Look at this, associated info like location to give you faster searches, better recommendations, and more personalized experiences in Maps, search, and other Google services. Turn that off. Your timeline. This is all of the stuff you've done. Turn that off. YouTube history. I turned it off. I would turn it off. Again, this does not necessarily mean that they are not collecting information. This might just mean that you are not seeing it. But I think opting out, setting this precedent, letting them know that you don't want to share this stuff, and deleting it, saying that you want it deleted, it's one small piece of the puzzle. It's one small piece of the puzzle. Also personalized ads, turn off personalized ads. This also might give you a little insight into how they see you, which can be a little freaky. Partner ad settings, turn them off. Search personalization, turn it off. Even if they are still collecting this information for you, this is limiting their ability to shape what you're seeing. I can't promise that they're going to stop doing it entirely, right? Again, this is about trust. It's about trust. But it is a place to start. And next week, we'll talk about how to get away from Google entirely. If you've done this on your accounts, on your browser, in your computer, go back and go through your phone. Go through your settings on your computer as well, but go through your phone settings. Go to your, on Android, it's called Permissions Manager. You might have something else in Apple. See what apps have access to what information. Turn off anything related to AI that is collecting data and filtering it back and using it to build their AI stuff. Turn off anything that doesn't need access to your location. I said this at the beginning, but I'll say it again. Turn off anything that doesn't need access to your microphone. If you're looking at this and you're like, this game that I installed asked for microphone access. Why does it need microphone access? Does it need microphone access all the time? Probably not. You can turn that off. You can turn that off. Okay, so that was privacy. With our remaining time, we're going to talk about security. A little bit. Urgency and perfection start to come into play when we talk about security, right? If privacy is about increasing friction, security is where you really want to close the gaps. These are the situations where there are stakes to slipping up. Again, that's not as true of privacy. Don't fall into the trap of mistaking the two in either direction. Most of the time, you shouldn't have to worry about like closing every gap. But let's look at a situation where you might want to actually achieve some anonymity. I want to disclaim that I'm not a security expert. This is a jumping off point. Before you go write your play about someone doing something a little more intense, taking an action, going to an exciting gathering of people in a public space, do your own research and talk to some people who've been in it. Get support for that from people you trust. So first, digitally. If you wanted to do something on the internet without being detected, you have the tools. I don't know that you're ever going to need this. You may not ever need this. I just want you to know that it is available to you. We talked about Tor last week, the onion router browser, which hides your browser fingerprint. That combined with a VPN to spoof your location and your ISP, which is your Internet Service Protocol ID, will get you a good ways there. There's also an operating system called Tails. I just want you to know about Tails. It's free and it's open source. And this is a little like, a little more techy, but you download Tails onto a USB drive. And then you reboot your computer and it boots up as though Tails was the operating system. So that's like instead of Mac or instead of Windows, it opens to Tails. And then you can operate using it without leaving any trace on your computer. It has some privacy things pre-installed to use like Tor. Almost everything, I just want this is just like information that you should know. Almost everything you do leaves a trace on your computer. Even if you delete a file, the evidence of that file's existence, and sometimes the whole file, can still be retrieved, but not with Tails. And when you reboot your computer after using it, Tails is gone. I just want you to know that it exists. I'm going to show you their website because I think it's cool. Their use case examples include activists, journalists, and domestic violence survivors. I think, again, it's the technology, it's the tools, but it's also the mentality of like, who do you trust? What can you trust? Do you trust your the platform that built, your operating system? And not to freak out, we all use these. For the most part, it's fine. For most use cases, it's fine. But just in those instances where maybe you want something else, the option is available to you. So VPN, Tails, Tor browser. That's the digital invisibility starter kit. But remember the mindset. If you log into Facebook on Tor, you just identified yourself in that instance. You've associated that login to your account with that browsing profile. If someone is watching over your shoulder, your encryption stops being useful. If there is a camera in the area where you're connected, you could be traced back to that location. My goal in sharing this is just to give you an idea of what is possible and what people are creating to expand our options in the modern panopticon of the internet. But again, this is not a complete guide, so please be careful out there. Now let's look at the real world, and we're gonna skim through this partially because this is a privacy session. This is not a security session. I am not a security expert. There is overlap between privacy and security, and I think there are some good lessons to be learned from them and from that. And I think these are resources that you should have, that everyone should have. So first, there's the activist checklist. This website is amazing. I love a checklist. And second, there is the Electronic Frontier Foundation's website. Their whole website is awesome. I've just linked their guide to attending a protest because I think it has some interesting stuff on it. Both of these lists are worth looking into in more depth. I can't do them justice in the time we have, but I want to flag some advice. Some of this did the rounds in 2020, but it's worth revisiting. If you're using facial or fingerprint unlock on your phone, that can be forcibly manipulated. Somebody can hold, the phone in front of your face or press your finger to it, whether they're a mugger or a police officer. The more worried you are about someone, and this is, the threat model, right? The like, how likely is this to happen? The more worried about someone physically getting your phone you are, the longer your passcode should be. 10-digit number is like a really great option, not your phone number. If you're worried about being identified with your location in a place, level 1 is turn off your location and turn on airplane mode so that your phone isn't connecting to GPS or to cell phone towers that can triangulate the location of your device. Level 2 is turning off your phone and putting it in a Faraday bag. A Faraday bag blocks a signal. Don't open that bag until you're out of the location that you don't want to be identified in. Level 3 is just leaving your phone at home. Just fully leave it behind. Bonus points, leave it behind and on, so digitally it looks like you never left. In your phone's notification settings, another thing, you can choose whether the notification, your like incoming messages, signal messages, for example, give you a preview in your phone, on your phone screen, even if you haven't unlocked your phone, right? When a text pops up, if you're worried about someone getting a hold of your phone, you can turn previews off so they can't see that. And one more use case, airports. First of all, if you're flying in the United States, do not scan your ID. Do not use their facial recognition technology. You don't have to. Do not scan your ID. Once you've scanned it, they will tell you you have to use their facial recognition technology. I don't know how much you can fight them. They'll like do everything they can to get a picture of you at that point. But if you hold onto your ID and hand it directly to the security officer, or hold it for the security officer to look at with their eyes and let them know that you don't want your picture taken, that is still an option that you have. Now, if you're flying into or out of the country, the TSA is allowed to ask you to unlock your phone. Apparently, they're allowed to confiscate it if you don't. They're allowed, apparently, to look through it. They are doing this, especially if you look suspicious or if you've been flagged for any kind of like anti-government rhetoric on the internet, right? But you have options. You can scrub your phone before you travel. If you're worried that that looks suspicious to have things cleared out, you can buy or borrow a separate travel-specific device. You can make your accounts private. You can delete social apps off of your phone so they can't look at them on your phone. You can log out of everything on your phone to make it harder for them. You have options. You can always create friction. And that comes back to the privacy plan we made last week. What are you worried about getting out there? Like, what is the information you're trying to protect? Who is likely to come for it? What is the likelihood that they will come for it and that you'll have to protect it? And who are your allies? Who's on your team? These are all resources that you have. And again, we did sort of a general one last week, but if you're looking at a specific instance, you can rerun those questions for that specific thing. In terms of real world stuff, if you're feeling spicy, the next time you run an errand, think about all of the ways that you could be identified if somebody wanted to find you. And then think about how you'd get around them, right? I'm really not trying to freak you out. Like, I wanted to be a spy growing up, so I played that game a lot. I was always looking for like, where are the cameras? And I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to bring it up just to give an idea of like why security and anonymity are so difficult in the modern age. And again, it's intentional. It's because it's been made difficult. Ring cameras have made it difficult in like, business neighborhoods and also in residential neighborhoods. Businesses not taking cash anymore have made it difficult. Ubers and Lyfts not taking cash have made it difficult. Every piece of technology being individually registered to an individual, or to a purchase or to something specific, having an ID number has made it difficult. And I'm not saying that these things are unilaterally bad. I'm not saying that they are without use, just that they've asked us to give up something immense in return. The modern world is giving Faust. It's giving Rumpelstiltskin. It's giving Ursula from The Little Mermaid. It's giving unintended consequences. They've given us access to all the knowledge in the world. And they did not tell us that all the knowledge in the world would be poorly organized or impossible to tell truth from fiction or frequently very just stupid. And now we have all of this and they've come for our firstborn child. And human ingenuity is limitless. And if they can manipulate the agreements, so can we. And y'all make theater. Theater is a room where everyone turns their cell phone off, or should turn their cell phone off, and things happen and then they disappear. And often there's no recording of what happened in that room, and we trust each other to hold that space. And in a digital age where privacy is nearly impossible, where being witnessed is constant, where mistakes are permanent, and pictures of me at parties in college will live forever on the internet, I think the ability to make something disappear, to make something that lives only for the people with whom you share a physical space, something that does not have to be documented, something that is only carried into the world in our hearts and minds, I think that could be pretty powerful. I think we have an opportunity and a responsibility to that, to make the most of that, to use that. That's my speech for today. I will see you next week to give ourselves time to switch over to platforms that don't track us, to build new habits, to shape the world we want to live in. The big stuff, the annoying stuff, the stuff that's a lot of little stuff, the stuff that happens over time if we choose it. Changing our email addresses. It's going to be great. As usual, hit me up if you have questions, comments, concerns, bright ideas, if I've missed stuff that you think is important. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up and committing to this. Go share this with your friends. You can send them the video, or you can just make them install a VPN and a password manager. I don't care how many people watch this video. I just want them to protect their privacy. I am working on a cheat sheet that will be shareable by next week. I swear, I promise, really this time. Go update your mom's computer. Go sit down with your family's devices. Go yell at your friends at parties. Take care of the people you can take care of. Wear sunscreen, drink water, and keep taking care of yourself. Keep listening to your body. Stop rolling your eyes at me. I heard that. You know I'm right. This is a lot. Let it be a lot. And then make some choices about it. All right. I love you. I'll see you next week. Stay messy.